Going into kind of I'm actually no, be saying no. See how he speaks to people. And I just for me, if I'm sitting in my I get that actually sort of yeah, well, he's a he's not brilliant thing well, I don't know why. The other thing is, I really want to work on the sense
There's a wall and a non-natural feel and you feel that in real, you feel that in yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I can see that. And seeing that strategy because he can do stuff beyond you. Yeah. Because presumably that's going to mean what's quite funny is they are No, absolutely.
That's a spare one. Well, that's the main one. Is it on? I might turn it off. When you think of two people sit across the
so it's just to say, if you've got a fantastic it's not having to be easy. And then I think they might end up in.
Well, I suppose there is the left stuff, isn't there? There is the
The stuff is quite good.
they're very good at the very good at that.
Through that war, talking about some sort of
But they're so and those days used to Glasgow.
Good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. Well, Happy Political New Year, that is. And amazing to see a room full of politicos and journalists looking so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, no doubt, after many festive celebrations. But school is now back, as we all know, and there seems to be a buzz of excitement in the air. Why? Well, it is, of course, going to be an election year. And I think we all get a sense that this is going to be quite an interesting election. An interesting election because the political landscape is radically changing. There's a sense in the air that something different is going to happen. There's a sense that the electorate desperately want something different to happen. I've been in politics quite a long time, and never before have I seen so many voters disenfranchised with what is on offer at the top. What is on offer in that binary choice of a two-party system, constricted by first past the post. And they're looking at the Conservatives and saying, we've had enough of this. The parlour games in Parliament instead of passing policies. They're looking at Sir Keir Starmer and saying, well, that doesn't really look much better. And so, really, without having to do that much at all of a sudden, Reform UK are creeping up in the polls, which is why you're all here. You want to know what we're doing. That's a privilege we don't get very often. What we want to do is offer exactly what the people want. They want change, but in order to get that change, they need to change the way they vote. If you want a different outcome, you've got to do something different. Never before have I seen a country so desperately in need of wholesale reform. And we do what it says on the tin. That is what we hope to deliver in 2024. So thank you all for coming, as we're going to tell you some of the things on the menu. We're going to point out some of the litmus tests that you're going to be seeing happening over the next few months, the indicators of what 2024 might bring in politics and what it is that we uniquely are hoping to deliver. So thank you all for coming, and let me now introduce Reform UK's party leader, Richard Tice.
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everybody, and a very happy New Year to everybody. And, of course, at a time of New Year, we want to be optimistic, and it's delighted that so many of you have resisted the temptation to join Sir Ed Davey and the Lib Dems on an unveiling a poster down in sunny Guildford, because you want to hear what we're up to. We are optimistic politically because, as Alex quite rightly said, this is an election year. Now, let's be clear. The country never voted that it was ready for Rishi. But I am absolutely certain that the country is ready for Rishi to call an election sooner rather than later. Because I'm also certain, and in fact I'm cheerful, I'm optimistic, that the country quite rightly wants to punish the Tories for breaking Britain. Because that is what they want to do. I think the country wants to punish them, to oust them, and replace them. The question is what we replace them with. Now, 3 years ago, when I launched Reform UK, the Tories laughed at me. They said, "Why are you bothering? We're getting it sorted." And to coin an expression from my good friend Nigel in the European Parliament, they're not laughing now. No, the truth is, the Tories are terrified. Yes, in the new year, the special pleading has already started. Oh, please don't stand here. Please don't stand there. I'm one of the nice guys. I believe in everything that you believe in. You've all broken Britain. You're all responsible. So there's no special deals. We stand in every single seat in England, Scotland, and Wales. Now, of course, the Prime Minister, he likes his maths. He's a technocrat. He likes to mark things. So I thought we ought, first of all, to start by marking his exam report for last year, because he stood up almost exactly a year ago and gave us his 5 pledges, didn't he? You remember those 5? Well, let's just see how he's got on. Stopping the boats. 30,000 illegal migrants later, I think we can mark that down as a fail. Growing the economy. Well, the latest economic data shows that actually the economy is not growing. It's going into reverse. It's getting smaller. So we're going to mark that down as a fail as well. Reducing debt, well, he's failed at that as well. So he wants us all to be good at maths. Well, let's just look at the maths. So far, 3 fails out of 3. He wants to cut the waiting lists. Well, it's not gone so well either, has it, Prime Minister? The waiting lists have gone up. So we're going to mark that as a fail as well. But credit where credit's due. He said he would halve inflation, and inflation has halved. So we'll put that down as a pass. So that's 1 pass out of 5, which we all know is 20%. So in any exam that I suspect any of us have taken part in, 20% is a fail. No ifs, no buts. You might want to resit, but in many schools and colleges, if you're that bad, you wouldn't even be allowed to resit the exam. And that's the point. I think the country, the voters will say, Prime Minister, you're not allowed to continue to run the country. You have failed. And the reason that they've failed, we've got a slide here, is because of what they've done to the country. The truth is, the Tories have become like the Labour Party, 2 sides of the same socialist coin. We've got record high taxes, we've got record high wasteful government spending, and yet disastrous outcomes, whether it's in health, whether it's in infrastructure, whether it's in housing, trying to see a GP, everything is getting worse. We've got record nanny state regulations. They've utterly failed to take advantage of the great Brexit opportunity that offers so much promise, and still does, with the right leadership. And of course, the biggest betrayal of all by this government is on immigration. They absolutely promised, election after election, particularly when we were going to get Brexit done, that they would bring down lawful immigration. And yet they've deliberately done exactly the opposite. They've betrayed the people. In particular, they've betrayed Brexit voters and the working class voters. They've opened the borders to mass, uncontrolled immigration of a scale that this country has never seen before. And both economically and culturally, that is not good for the United Kingdom. The other similarity between the two main parties, of course, is they're obsessed with the multi-trillion-pound cost of net zero. The problem is, and Rishi has failed in one of his pledges, you cannot grow an economy with the burden of these 5 key factors. And that's why the economy is doing the opposite of what everybody thought. The economy is not growing. It's flatlining. There's no growth. And if there's no growth, you eventually run out of money if you keep increasing spending. So what's the alternative? Well, the country needs a serious wake-up call. Because the alternative actually is Starmageddon. Starmageddon is a risk near you in 2024. We are facing a catastrophic cocktail of economic incompetence and cultural pillage that would be a disaster for the United Kingdom. Because, of course, in every Labour government, every socialist way, they want more taxes. They want to take more of your money. Unbelievably, they want to get closer to the failing, sclerotic, recessionary European Union. We've just left it, and thank God we have. Germany's in recession. The EU's going nowhere. And yet Starmageddon wants to take us closer to it. They want more government spending, of course. That's what socialists do. They want more nanny state regulations because they think they know how to control your life better than you do. And, of course, they want to betray the working class. I mean, the Labour Party was founded, supposedly, to protect and promote the working class. But with more mass immigration, you get exactly the opposite. An absolute disaster that has the effect of depressing British wages. And I'll give you an example of that. In the fast food delivery business, all the big fast food companies, they are complicit in allowing massive illegal working, huge illegal working, which is depressing wages of decent British working class people. And that is wrong, but that is the betrayal of the Labour Party. And, of course, they're even more obsessed with net zero than the Tories. You cannot grow an economy under this burden. It's never been done before. Now, Jeremy Hunt, the other month, he was sort of celebrating when you had growth of 0.1 or 0.2%. For heaven's sake, man, that's feeble, that's pathetic. I remind people, in the 80s and 90s, the country was growing at 2.5% to 3% plus every single year. We're lucky if we grow at all. And here's the point that nobody's talking about enough. The deficit this year, already at almost 120 billion, is likely to end up by April at 150 billion pounds a year. If you have no growth and you keep spending more than you earn, then next year it'll be between 150 and 200 billion pounds. And eventually the bond markets say, we're done. Enough is enough. No more. You've run out of cash. You've run out of money. You're bankrupt. That is where Starmageddon is taking us, with these key elements. And it is a catastrophe, an absolute cocktail of catastrophic incompetence. So we're crystal clear. Only Reform UK, with our policies, can now save Britain. The key thing is, we've got a cost of living crisis. The fastest and best way, the most helpful way to deal with that, is, as I've said before, exactly a year ago, I said you've got to make work pay. You've got to lift the starting point at which anybody pays any income tax from 12.5 grand to £20,000. That frees up 6 million people from any income tax at all. Net, it's about 30 quid a week. That is a significant difference to millions of households. Of course, there's lots of other taxes we need to cut as well in business, and also things like fuel duty. We should be cutting 20p of every litre of fuel. That will make a huge difference to individuals and to small businesses. And it's brilliant that our fantastic London mayoral candidate, Howard Cox, who's here today, he, of course, has been the champion of freezing fuel duty for many years. We've got to cut the wasteful government spending. It's off the scale. All of us in our households, small businesses, we're looking at our budgets and we're saying, we've got to save 5 quid in 100 without affecting our products, our frontline services, while still paying the bills. If you do that in government, every single manager of every quango, commission, department, council, it soon adds up. Yes, it's well north of £50 billion a year. That's what's got to be done. And of course, you've got to take advantage of the great, brilliant opportunities from Brexit. You've got to cut thousands and thousands of daft EU regulations. The Tories, once again, they promised it. They even got a little bill together to get rid of 4,000 regs. And then the Prime Minister cowardly, feebly bottled it as he cozied up to Ursula von der Leyen. Hopeless. If you're going to do something like Brexit, for God's sake, do it properly. On immigration, we've got to freeze non-essential immigration. One in, one out. That is what the British people vote, I believe. That's what the people want. The British people never voted for mass immigration. And finally, we've got to scrap the totally job-destroying trillion-pound cost of net zero. Just that alone will make people better off. That alone will ease the cost of living crisis. I talk about the betrayal of Labour against the working class. Net zero, every week, every month, is destroying thousands of skilled manufacturing jobs, steel jobs, automotive jobs. They've betrayed their own people. Only Reform UK Now is the party of the working class, who will stop mass immigration, who will scrap net zero, who will help solve the cost of living crisis. And if we do these things together as a nation, as Alex quite rightly said earlier, if you want change, you've got to vote for it. And if the country votes for this change, then the result will be a high-growth, dynamic economy where all of us feel a great deal better off. Now, we're making great progress. We're going to be ready whenever the election is called. We've got our sort of spring rally. We're bringing it forward a bit, spring, on the 24th of February in Doncaster so that we're ready, announcing all our hundreds and hundreds of candidates. We're almost there. We're approaching 500 approved and allocated, hundreds more applying as every day goes by. So we will be ready. But the first election is actually just a few weeks away. Yes, there's going to be a by-election in Wellingborough in Northamptonshire, and I'm delighted to say that we have selected our candidate, fantastic, brilliant candidate, who's here today. I'm going to invite him to the stage. He is none other than my joint deputy leader, Ben Habib.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming this morning. I can't really follow Alex's and Richard's exposition of the disaster that has become the governance of this country in any greater detail than they have. But to say just one thing, if I may, what's really been exercising me since 2020, which kept me in the political arena after we ostensibly left the European Union, was an act of complete and utter political weakness by our government. The partitioning of the United Kingdom between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And if you want any one symptom of the utter collapse of British spirit, what we stand for, the cultural, territorial, constitutional, political, economic integrity of our country, it is the Northern Ireland Protocol, and the Windsor Framework, frankly, in my opinion, is even worse than the original document. And we've been lied to repeatedly over that document. We've been told that actually it's the best of both worlds. It isn't. It's the worst of all worlds for Northern Ireland. In 1982, we launched our armed forces to go and protect 1,800 British people 10,000 miles away. Wind the clock on, and we've given up 1.8 million people in Northern Ireland without a single shot being fired, without an insurgency, and without so much as a democratic vote in favour of it. And anyone in this room who thinks that I'm making too much of Northern Ireland totally underestimates what it represents in terms of the collapse of this country. So I was kept in the political arena, essentially, initially for Northern Ireland. But as the years have wound on, and Richard, as I mentioned, explained so clearly, as the years have wound on, this government has brought the United Kingdom to the precipice of economic collapse, cultural collapse, labour market collapse, industrial collapse. You name it, we are facing that problem. And as Margaret Thatcher, I think she was arguably the only decent Conservative Prime Minister we've had since Winston Churchill. As Margaret Thatcher said, and it should be known very well to Rishi Sunak, the problem with that you eventually run out of other people's money. And that's where we are at. I reluctantly joined Reform UK. I'm sure Richard won't mind me saying that. I reluctantly joined because I'd left the party political system and I was campaigning for Northern Ireland, fighting for a proper Brexit, doing stuff outside a party tent. But I was drawn in eventually to Reform because the only way to make an impact ultimately in a democracy is at the polls, in an election. The electoral impact is the only thing that matters in Westminster. And my initial aim, as some of you may recall when I announced my joining Reform UK in March last year, was to obliterate the Tory party. They've beaten me to it. And I take the position extremely responsibly. And the reason I'm standing in Wellingborough is because it's not sufficient anymore simply to defeat the Tories. We have to lead the way. Reform UK has to lead the way and get seats in Parliament. We don't need to get many seats, but if we can get a dozen or more seats in Parliament at the next general election, and a lot of you will be rolling your eyes thinking, oh yeah, fancy chance that. But let me tell you, the political environment is extremely febrile. People are extremely upset. No one thought we'd vote for Brexit, but we did. In fact, there were 4 plebiscites in favour of Brexit, and I think the political sands are shifting in a way that they haven't shifted for years. And it is incumbent, therefore, on Reform UK not to be just a destructive force, but to be a constructive one. And I intend to give Wellingborough by-election the best swing of my bat. And if I am elected, I will stand in the Commons and hold this wretched government to account to the very best of my ability for the people of Wellingborough and the great British people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ben. Bullish talk as ever. Now, before I talk about, take some questions from the media, obviously many of you want to know what in this election year are Nigel's plans. He's back from the jungle, he's recovered, hopefully the stomach is in better shape from the travails of the Bush Tucker trials. And we've been talking over the Christmas period, and he's obviously giving a lot of thought as to the extent of the role that he wants to play in helping Reform UK, frankly, save Britain. And he is still assessing that, and as and when we have all collectively come to a decision, obviously we look forward to letting everybody know. I'm not a poker player, But I know that a good poker player doesn't show their hand too early. Nigel is the master of political timing, but I'm very clear. The job at hand is so big to save Britain. The more help that Nigel is able to give in the election campaign, frankly, the better. Because the crisis facing the country, the crisis, the catastrophe that would befall us with Starmageddon is really, really serious. So, open to questions. Who would like to kick off first? There's a hand early there, sir.
Hi, Rob Hutton from The Critic. I was just curious about something that Ben said about allowing the border in the Irish Sea without the shot being fired or sending the army in. Where does Reform think the army should have been sent, and who should they have been shooting at?
Do you want me to answer that?
Please.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't for a moment suggesting it should be an armed conflict, but if you are going to give up part of the British territory, you should at least have, at the very least, stick by the terms of the Good Friday Agreement, which is to get cross-community consent, have a plebiscite, and in the absence of a plebiscite and the people's consent to that border, you have no right as a government to give it up. The Acts of Union which create this country are of constitutional importance. Article 6, I highly recommend you read it, requires that every part of the United Kingdom is treated equally with every other part. No government has the right to diminish a British citizen's standing in any part of the United Kingdom. If you fly from London to Belfast, you're a second-class citizen when you land in Belfast. You come back to London, you're a first-class citizen. That is an abomination that has to end.
Is that helpful? Lady here, hello. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Hi.
What would a good result look like for your party at the next general election?
Oh, we're very clear. I mean, we need millions and millions of people to vote for us to help send a very clear message to help save Britain and to avoid the catastrophe of Starmageddon. And look, we all know, no bones about it, the first past the post electoral system is completely the wrong system. It's a disastrous system. We want proportional representation. That is a fairer system. So look, we're not saying that it's easy, it's difficult, but one thing's clear. If you're not on the ballot paper, if you don't try, you've got no chance. Chris.
Christopher Hope, GB News. But the last comparable election, 2015, your forebear party, UKIP, won millions of votes and was left with one MP. Isn't a vote for reform a wasted vote? Because you don't know where the voters are, do you? There's no data. You don't know where they are, so you can't get the support.
Look, the world is a completely different place now to where it was because the country wasn't broken in 2015. The country is now utterly broken. We're all poorer, we've got mass immigration, and there's no economic growth. So I think actually millions and millions of people from all parties or from no party saying this is a disaster. And they have sort of two options. Either not to vote at all, which is bad for democracy, or to say, actually, I like the sound of these new guys. Their policies are common sense. I'm going to give them a go. And look, if you want to win the lottery, you've got to buy a ticket. You can't win it otherwise. And if you want to shape and influence, you've got to be on the ballot paper. We're on the ballot paper absolutely everywhere. And we stand with different policies, unique policies, that I think many, many people will say, that's the one for me. Lady at the back there.
Hi, I'm Claire from the Daily Mail.
Hi, Claire.
What about Starmageddon, but isn't the best way to get a Labour government for Reform to stand in every seat?
The question was, is the best way to get a Labour government for us to stand? No, the best way to avoid Starmageddon is for everybody to vote Reform UK, because only our policies can save Britain. And if we do that, we avoid the catastrophic cocktail of Starmageddon. Over here, sir.
Hi, Christian from the Daily Express. Labour's candidate in the Wellingborough by-election, Jane Kitchen, signed a pledge in 2019 promising to back a second referendum and campaign for Remain. If you take enough Tory votes in this by-election to hand Labour the seat, won't you be proving Lee Anderson right when he warns that reform...
No, I'll stop you now. You've completely misjudged the whole point. Wellingborough is a strong Brexit seat. The last thing they want is a Remainer that wanted to contravene democracy as their MP. Peter Bone, the outgoing MP, he is a strong Brexiteer. So no, they will say, I'm not voting Labour, I'm voting for one of the strongest Brexiteers in the country, Ben Habib. That's why we've got a cracking chance. Who's next? Yes, the lady just there. Hello. Yeah.
Hello, Martin
Look, Lee Anderson is a nice guy. Lee's very worried. He's terrified that we're going to basically put him out of a job. What I say to Lee is, look, actually, he admitted yesterday he agrees with 80% of our principles. The honest truth is there are quite a number of Tory MPs in a similar position. Stop staying with the toxic Tories. Stop defending the indefensible. Be brave. Be bold. Come on over. We want quality. And, you know, Lee's a good man. He's just, he's in the wrong party. Just next to you, lady there.
From the newspaper. Just following on from that, how many current or former Conservative MPs or councillors are you currently in talks with?
That's a great question, and I've said it before. It would be wrong to give a running commentary, but the answer is, including councillors, quite a lot. We're getting interesting calls every day now. We're getting calls from literally from chairs of councils. And we're getting all sorts of calls, Chris. I know you're very, very enthusiastic about this. All of those who talk to me can be reassured that those conversations are private, are confidential. I won't even confirm who I've met. But the answer is a lot. And also, I'll just follow it up by saying a lot of very disappointed, disgruntled former Tory donors who are not going to donate to the Tory party are picking up the phone saying, how can I help? And that's why we're confident we can make a huge impact in Wellingborough and then a huge impact in the general election. Andy.
Andy Bell, 5 News. Can you at least tell us today that Nigel Farage will play some formal role in supporting Reform UK, or are you not even able to tell us that today?
Oh, I'm confident. I'm very confident, and I'm looking forward to it.
What would that role be?
That's the point of the poker player. Patience is a virtue, Andy. You're just going to have to be a little bit more patient for me. Yes, sir.
If you are, Carl Dinham from ITV News, if you are the only way to save Britain from economic and cultural collapse, why is Nigel Farage having so much trouble making up his mind what party he's going to play?
He's not having trouble making up his mind. He's taking his time. He's working it all out. There's a variety of things, and there are various logistical issues. He's got other commitments. We've all got commitments. You have to organise things properly. Nothing should be rushed. There's things that have to be organised. You can't just rush things. So I say patience is a virtue. Dominic.
Hi, Dominic Penner here on the Telegraph. Is a Labour government a price you're happy to pay in order to push the Tories at the next election? Do you wish Nigel Farage was here with us today? You're not slightly disappointed that he can't make...
You might be disappointed. I speak to Nigel very frequently. Look, the answer is they're both as bad as each other. They're both a catastrophe for the United Kingdom. People are feeling poorer both economically and culturally. Despite all the promises, all we've had is betrayal and lies and nonsense. And people need to understand that if you want change, if you want this country to be run properly, you've got to vote for it. It's as simple as that. Gentleman here. Chris, sorry, yes.
Thank you. Chris Layton, BBC News. Happy New Year to you. Can you be absolutely categoric today that you're not going to go all wibbly-wobbly when we get a bit close to the election? And not
Good Lord, no one's ever accused me of being wibbly-wobbly, for heaven's sake.
Everywhere in Great Britain.
I can be absolutely categoric that we are not doing any deals with the Tories. We will stand everywhere in England, Scotland, Wales. Absolutely.
Under any circumstances.
Under any circumstances. You heard it here, folks. Gentleman at the back there with his hand up.
Thank you. Matthew Hollis from The Economist. I mean, we looked at your track record on by-elections. It has not been great. So there's been 11 contests that you've contested since 22. You've lost your deposit in 10 of them. Your best result has been 5.4%. What's going on with you? Because this is not the performance that you could used to enjoy. They would regularly finish in second place in by-elections. What's not working?
The great thing is that people's awareness, it takes time to build a brand. And many of those by-elections, many people haven't heard of us. But now, as we're going we're increasing in the polls, we're hitting double figures. I'm confident we'll be at 12% and plus. We're equal to the Lib Dems, or somewhere down in Guildford in a removal van, I think Ed Davey is. We're heading north, and so more people are aware of us. Thanks to your good selves, people are writing about us, broadcasting about us. People say, who are these folk? They look at it and they say, actually, that makes sense. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. We're brave enough to talk about it, so I think you're going to see big shift this year. That is for sure. Lady just here with your hand up. Hi.
You want a one-in, one-out immigration policy, but how will you address the labour shortages in the country?
The population of the United Kingdom has never been bigger. It's never been bigger. And the quantity of people, over 5 million people, on out-of-work benefits. We're not short of people in this country. We're short of a willing labour force. And the reason for that is, for too many people, as I touched on, work doesn't pay. We've got to make work pay. That is why our key economic policy of lifting the starting point for income tax to £20,000, that is a massive, massive difference. That will get many people back into work. It'll help the cost of living crisis. And here's the thing. Big businesses relying on the sort of the addictive drug of cheap overseas low-skilled labour rather than training up our own people, I think is an abomination. And I think they should be ashamed of themselves. We've got to train our own people and we've got to get them into work, motivate people and make work pay. That is the key thing. And if you look at the numbers, about 400 to 450,000 people leave the country every year. They emigrate. So you can welcome in what I call smart immigration, where you've got genuine shortages. And yes, we've got shortages in healthcare. But equally, we've got responsibilities to those in developing nations. If they're training their own people, it's not morally very ethical, is it, for a developed nation like ourselves to then steal many of those people, train our own people. That's what we should be doing. I've got so many asking questions. I hope you're going to. I'll take one more from the lady who's been very patient.
Thank you so much. So Nigel Farage has said he could be Tory leader by 2026. How would you feel if he ditched reforms and rejoined the Tories?
I think you can be very confident that Nigel is committed. He's our honorary president. I mean, we could just take away the honorary title and call him President Farage alongside a possible President Trump. I mean, I think the country would be rather excited by that.
Would you be disappointed then if he did rejoin the Tories at any point?
Am I abolishing the monarchy? No, not at all. So I think we're done, everybody. I think there's some one-to-one interviews. But look, thank you very much indeed for being here, for your interest, and look forward to speaking to some of you, many of you, individually. Thanks very much.